What's up guys, Paladin here, and today I'm coming at you with a video on the 10.1 patch. I will be talking about here the talents that have been running now that we are a little bit into the season and we have some gear. So currently I have my 2-piece set bonus, but even if you don't have your 2-piece set bonus or your 4-piece set bonus, I recommend running this build. The main difference between the 10.1 build and the old builds that we ran as Red is now we are taking Vengeful Wrath and Vanguard's Momentum. I'm just going to go ahead and start at the top in the Paladin tree. Not too much has changed here. Fairly straightforward. I do pick up Cleanse Toxins on occasion when I'm fighting Shadow Priest because Devouring Plague is doing a fair amount of damage. But against anything except the Shadow Priest, I'm really not taking this talent. There are a couple flex points that we have here. One is Holy Aegis. So Holy Aegis point, you can flex it into either Cleanse Toxins or into Cavalier. Currently, at the moment, I'm preferring Holy Aegis for the 2% crit because I really don't need any more uptime than I already have with Divine Steed. Like, Divine Steed, it gets slowed. It's really not that great of a cooldown. If you're running RBGs, maybe Double Steed is better than 2% crit and armor. But in Arena, essentially, you're doing your full damage rotation from range for the most part. So that second Steed is not necessarily needed. So I pick up the 2% crit here. Another flex point we have is Divine Purpose. Now, I prefer Divine Purpose over Divine Resonance this patch, and that is because I like the freedom to have that Word of Glory proc or that back-to-back Final Verdict proc, which in turn gives us more chances at proccing the Final Verdict effect here that enables a free Hammer of Wrath. I think it's better. Some people might disagree. But it's working out for me at the moment, and I prefer it. I really don't think there's like that big of a difference between the two. So if for some reason you really prefer Divine Resonance, feel free to take it. It is a little bit extra controlled damage rather than RNG damage, but I get enough Divine Purpose procs to make me think it's worth it here. The reason that we run the Vengeful Wrath build now is that in 10.1. Hammer of Wrath got buffed, and the 2 and 4-piece set bonus also affect Hammer of Wrath here. So it is 50% effective in PvP. So we are only increasing its damage by 5% and 7.5% increased crit damage. But altogether, the 2-piece set bonus makes your Hammer of Wrath pump even in PvP. And then the 4 set is also beneficial to our single target damage because Hammer of Wrath is applying the Greater Judgment effect, which means we don't necessarily need to be spamming improved. We don't need 2 charges of Judgment anymore because we get plenty of applications from the Greater Judgment effect. Now, what that lets me do is it lets me take the improved Blade of Justice here. So now Blade of Justice has 2 charges, and personally, I prefer this playstyle. A handful of Paladins I've seen also playing this playstyle. I don't think there is a large difference between either running 2 charges of Blade of Justice or 2 charges of Improved Judgment, but I do think it is valuable to at least have one of them be the double Holy Power generator, just so you can have, one global between your spenders if you are pushing Judgment or if you are pushing Blade of Justice. Because if you run double charges of both, it does make the rotation a little too reliant on your Holy Power generators rather than your spenders. The next flex point I'll talk about in the Paladin talent tree here is the Blessed Champion and the Divine Auxiliary points. For the most part, things are cookie cutter at the moment. When I do get my 4 set, I'll be testing out Vanguard of Justice because even though this is nerfed in PvP combat, Vanguard of Justice in combination with our 4 set might actually make our Final Verdict slap really hard. So we'll see how that plays out. But for the moment, I think the only 2 flex picks we have are Blessed Champion and Divine Auxiliary. So where I might put these points sometimes, I'll take Blessed Champion, or rather, let me take it from the bottom. I'll take Blessed Champion, and I will move it up to the Expurgation point for a little bit more single target damage. And if I'm against a cleave or a class with a pet, like a Demo Lock that I want to kill quite frequently, or even a BM Hunter. Although, to be honest, Hunters, you can't kick their Revive pet anymore. So it's not as beneficial killing their pets. Um, but if I want a little bit more single target damage, I will take a point out of Blessed Champion and put it into Expurgation. If I really want to go for single target, so for the most part, I would run this build in twos with both Expurgation and Heart of the Crusader. This gives me the most single target out of the build. And if I did want a little bit of cleave, say I'm fighting like double melee, I could opt out of Expurgation here, put it into Blessed Champion, and now my cleave is just a little bit harder with Heart of the Crusader. And then I could even go take a point of the Holy Blade and just focus on Judgments to get a more cleave style build here. But for the moment, if you're curious what I'm running, it is essentially this build. And there are a handful of ways that you can modify it, but those are up to you. My personal playstyle, I really like Double Blade of Justice. It just feels good, smooths out the rotation for me. I prefer Boundless Judgment, even when I'm running Blessed Champion. And honestly, the Heart of the Crusader talent is not increasing your damage by that much, because a lot of times you are kited and your damage comes from your ranged abilities. So it's up to you. Think about the situation that you are going to be in. Are you in threes against a Turbo Cleave? Then maybe Blessed Champion is good. Are you fighting Feral Druid Hunter? Are you fighting like a Jungle Cleave where they're really not going to be stacked on top of each other that much, and you might benefit from a little more Blade of Justice damage from Expurgation? Try it out. See if you like it. I did at one point try a build where I ran Penitence and Burning Crusade for that little extra damage over time effect, and it is garbage. It is straight garbage. It does not do anything. So really, Expurgation is, you'll see like at max a 2.2% increase in your overall damage by running this, and that is if you're really not cleaving too much with Blessed Champion. So up to you guys. Last thing I'll talk about in the Paladin talent tree for now is Crusade. So there's been some contention on whether Avenging Wrath Might or Crusade is better. Avenging Wrath Might is a 1 minute cooldown, despite the tooltip saying it is a 2 minute cooldown. But it is also nerfed by 50% in PvP. So you're only getting 10% damage and 10% crit. Whereas Crusade in PvP is nerfed by roughly a third, I think. I think it's about 23% pace and 23% damage. But it's a 2 minute cooldown. You get a lot more overall damage by running Crusade. I now am pretty much running Crusade full time. I did play most of my games with Avenging Wrath Might, so I got above 2100 in both solo shuffle and twos, playing exclusively Avenging Wrath Might. So if you are married to 1 minute wings and that's your playstyle, go for it. It's really not going to hold you back that much. But personally, I am now a fan of Crusade. When you get the haste stacks up, it feels pretty good, and I think it scales overall better too. The more mastery that we get, the better that haste is going to feel, and the more set pieces we get, that better that extra 10% damage is going to feel on Crusade, rather than only 10% on Avenging Wrath Might. So that's 20% on Crusader, or about 23%. As far as that goes, guys, that's about it for the talents. If you did want to play something like, flex out of these talents here, say you wanted to play Consecrated Blade and Consecrated Ground, something like this, you could play that and play Hallowed Ground. This is what my build setup would look like if I was playing Hallowed Ground. And an example of when I might play Hallowed Ground would be against a Resto Druid who is constantly kiting me around the pillar. You can drop a Consecration to slow them a little bit easier that way, so they can't run in circles, even though they'll find some way to do it anyway. This is just what it would look like if I did run Hallowed Ground, but I really don't see the value in it too much. So I stick with what I like right here. All right, let's talk about the PvP talents now. So as far as PvP talents are concerned, this patch, unfortunately, it's pretty cookie cutter. A lot of our talents have either been removed or heavily nerfed from the past. The first mandatory talent we have here is Blessing of Sanctuary. If you are not used to Blessing of Sanctuary, I definitely start running it. Get used to pressing it. Make some macros for your Party 1 and Party 2. I'll leave some in the description of the video. And this is by far our best PvP talent. Removing stuns, horrors, silences, fears from our party members can both, net you kills and also save you and save trinkets, which is really good in Arena. In rated battlegrounds, however, you can replace Blessing of Sanctuary if you're not comfortable with it with Lawbringer and run a triple DPS style PvP talent here. But even in RBGs, if you start getting comfortable with Blessing of Sanctuary, it's an extra dispel. It's great. Take it. Our best PvP DPS talent here is Aura Reckoning. So Vengeance Aura, the 12% crit talent, was, to my knowledge, accidentally removed. In the patch notes, it said it was holy only. However, it disappeared for Ret as well. However, they did fix the bug interaction between Crusading Strikes and Aura Reckoning. So now we can actually take Aura Reckoning again, even though it is nerfed to proc at 100 stacks rather than 50 stacks like it did in previous patches. It's still pretty good, especially proccing a Crusade, which lasts a little bit longer than a regular Wings. Yeah, it's great. Allows us to throw some Hammer Wrath crits. And lastly, we have Luminescence here. Now, Luminescence is, again, nerfed pretty heavily to only 2%. It's very unnoticeable. However, it is a free 2% because with Crusader's Reprieve, we essentially have full uptime on this. You take a little bit of damage. As long as the Crusading Reprieve attack is healing you, it procs Luminescence. So that's a permanent 2% damage and healing increase for you and your party members in PvP combat, in Arena at least. If you're, for some reason, remaining at 100% HP the entire time, it might not proc. You'll need to be healed by a teammate or something. But yeah, for the most part, this has like 99% uptime, we'll say. Ultimate Retribution is just don't ever take this talent. It's not good. It's a meme. I don't know why it's here. Again, Lawbringer is nerfed to 2% now rather than 4% or 6% or 8%, whatever. It's been nerfed so many times. It's nerfed into irrelevancy. 2% of someone's max HP right now is so small. It is so bad. Judgment of Peer, again, another nerfed PvP talent. It no longer affects our allies, so it is not super useful. Scenarios where I do take this still is against a Shadow Priest and against Survival Hunters. Other casters, it is not worth dispelling their damage over time effects because their dispel protections are too potent at the moment. That includes Boomkins, honestly. Boomkins, Ellie Shamans, classes like that. I don't think it's worth it anymore. They do too much damage with the dispel protection. Hallowed Ground, I had talked about it already. You can take it if you want. I personally don't take it. I opt for the 2% damage increase. Spreading the Word is complete and utter garbage. There are no scenarios where this is better than any of the other talents here. Blessing of Spell Warding is essentially our second best talent here. I do take this quite frequently against double caster scenarios. If you are fighting RMP or, for example, Windwalker Destrolock or Sub-Rogue Destrolock, I still take regular Blessing of Protection because unlike Blessing of Protection, Blessing of Spell Warding does not remove yourself from CC. So you know how you can bop yourself out of a cheap shot or Blessing of Protection yourself out of a cheap shot, a physical CC? You can't do that with a magical CC. You cannot spell warding yourself out of a polymorph or a silence or something like that. It does immune it, but you can't actually remove the CC off yourself. So that is why Blessing of Protection is better into, one melee, one caster, while Blessing of Spell Warding is almost exclusively against double casters here. And just a little tip here. If you take Blessing of Spell Warding, you can make another build here. So, for example, I have my dot build, and then I have my dot spellbot build. And again, I'll link these in the description. The dot spellbot build here has no Blessing of Protection taken. So you actually don't need to take this talent. You can take this talent and flex it into whatever else. For example, I had my flex point go into Obduracy up here. Honestly, Obduracy is it's pretty garbage, so I'll probably move it down to the crit here. And we'll enjoy the crit. Outside of that, yeah, spell warding, great talent. Is it really gonna save you against casters? Sometimes, sometimes. It can be mass dispelled, but it can't be purged. So that's a pretty good side note right there. Yeah, use at your own risk. People, spellcasters will tell you it's OP, but really, at the moment, Rhett is struggling into the spellcaster meta. So we gotta take the tools that we get and use them to the best of our ability. One thing I did do with my Blessing of Spell Warding is I dragged it over all my Blessing of Protection binds. So as you can see here, I have 1, 2, 3 binds here. I'm actually, for some reason, missing one. Oh, maybe it's because I'm not in war mode. It doesn't show. Yeah, now it shows. So now I have all my Blessing of Spell Ward binds highlighted. I have party 1. I have myself / mouse over, and then I have party 2. And if I go over into my regular build that takes Blessing of Protection, it just converts it over to Blessing of Protection. And I just make sure I got to remember to untalent the Blessing of Spell Warding here. So yeah, that's about it for the talents. Let's get on to the next section of the guide, which will be gearing. So I actually logged over onto my alt Retribution Paladin to talk about the gearing here because just due to the nature of the vault, he actually has better best in slot gear than my main. So we are going to be running the 4-set bonus this season. And the pieces that I'll be running the 4-set bonus on are the helm, which is a haste versatility helm, the shoulders, which are versatility crit, the chest, which is a mastery crit, and then the pants here, which are going to be haste mastery pants. Now, those are the best options that we have. Again, the combination of stats aren't necessarily ideal, but it is the best that we can get. I am going to talk about the embellishments a little bit. So on my main Paladin, I did craft a chest embellishment just for the 450 item level. But on my alt, I crafted the undulating spore cloak. Now, I think this is our best embellishment outside of the boots here. And the boots make it so when you Hammer of Justice or dispel a target or kick a target, you get a little primary stat bonus. Kind of like, it's about half the value of a proc trinket. It's pretty good. It's noticeable. But the undulating spore cloak here is nerfed in PvP by, I believe, about 60%. And I think the shield is affected by dampening. However, I was getting average about 140k shields on proc, and the passive heal is actually pretty noticeable too. It's, you know, somewhere around my 3rd top heal at the end of games. Granted, we really don't do much healing with our Word of Glory or flash heals anymore. This is more effective than, let's say, the versatility proc, which is like 2% overall versatility for 10 seconds for, I don't know, 1 proc per minute. It's not that great. Sometimes I've popped a crusade and I don't get a single proc during it. The only upside of the chest piece is that it's easier to acquire early on because you don't actually have to spend conquest on it. The cloak, unfortunately, the trophy is not provided from the initial quest, so you are going to have to buy the trophy required for the cloak from the PvP vendor. I believe it's about 525 conquest. Outside of that, we're going to pick up mastery wherever we can. The stat priority is versatility, then mastery, then haste, then crit. I'm prioritizing crit last. Crit's not even that bad of a stat. It did get nerfed this patch, but since we have such low overall crit and we're running Crusade, it is okay to pick up a few crit pieces. But those are just the crit pieces that we're going to naturally get from getting the 4-set gear. So the crit will come from the chest here and the shoulder piece. Outside of that, I'm not targeting crit whatsoever. Every other piece is going to be either versatility mastery or versatility haste. I'm going to log back over onto my main ret right here. So you can get some temporary pieces that are pretty good early on from the scale warning gear. So the world PvP gear, and then you upgrade it with the trophies. So right here, you can pick up the scale warden's plate spalders and upgrade it to 2 out of 2. This is a versatility mastery shoulder. So if you are getting unlucky in your vault, or watching this video and you don't have enough charges on the I honestly forget what it's called here. What are the Dragon Isles, Valdrassus? What is the converter? Whenever the converter comes out, I think it's June 13th. Could be wrong, but if you don't have your set piece shoulders, go ahead and get the Scale Warden's gear. Instead, you can also pick up the Scale Warden's bracers here, which are versatility mastery early on. I'll show you guys the vendor real quick. Let me just I'll head over to the Dragon Isles. So the Scale Warden gear comes from this vendor right here. Make sure when you are buying the PvP gear from the vendor so you don't accidentally go to the War Mode Quartermaster. Even though that doesn't seem very straightforward because this guy says War Mode Quartermaster and then he has the Drake Breaker gear. This is last season's gear. You don't want to buy that. You want to make sure you buy the Scale Warden's gear, and then you can take it over to the item upgrader over here when you pick up and complete the World PvP quest, aka the Sparks quest. Right here. This one. It awards Trophies of Strife. This is what you use to upgrade the World PvP gear to be 3 item levels lower than the Conquest gear. Lets you get gear a little bit faster. One side note, you can actually do the normal / heroic raid and get set pieces and upgrade them, or get them from your vault. So I don't know. I guess I would consider this lucky. I did a normal raid, and then I got my set pants on my main Paladin, but they were the PvE pants. This, unfortunately, can only be upgraded further than 4 out of 8 with like a Mythic Plus and Heroic raid stuff, which I don't really do. I might in the future, but I might just wait for the Catalyst. I think we're only a couple weeks away from the Catalyst coming out, so I might just sit on this for now and leave it alone. You can also get 1600 in arenas or rated BGs or solo shuffle, and you can take that token down to a vendor in Zaralik Cavern. The vendor is right at this flight point right here, and they give you 2 options. You can take the elite gear, or you can take the, I believe, heroic raid gear. Make sure if you're PvPing, you take the elite gear. Otherwise, it won't scale up to 450 in PvP combat. Couple friends I have made that mistake, so you make sure you want to get this one, the elite. And you can sit on the 1600 token until you get another set piece from your vault or wherever, or raid, and then get a piece from the set that you don't have, which is actually what I did. I waited to get my helm until I had another set piece, and this just was coincidentally from the raid, so I took it and I wear it for now. It does drop my overall item level a little bit, but that's okay. All right, guys, that is about it for the gearing. I will just talk a little bit about the enchants now. So the enchants that I'm running at the moment are Regenerative Leech, Sustained Strength, plus 200 Leech on the bracers, the Fierce Armor Kit rank 3, Planesrunner Breeze rank 3, versatility on both my trinkets, and a rank 3 Sophic Devotion. Now, on the auction house, sometimes it bugs out and it doesn't show the difference between the enchants and their tooltips between ranks 1 and 3. 3 is always the best enchant that you can get for the moment for these specific enchants. Some people might be running Waking Stats. I have not checked in 10.1 if this is fixed. But in 10.0, 10.0.5, and 10.7, Waking Stats was not actually increasing your stats at all with rank 3. So that is why I'm running Sustained Strength. I have just not bought another rank 3 Waking Stats to check that out. But even if it was fixed, I actually think Sustained Strength is probably a little bit better, because we do hit those 30% caps with our stats here, especially in PvP combat. Let me get in here. I might be at about 30% mastery, I believe. We're getting close. I did have a little bit more earlier when I was running the honor ring. So this is something else I was experimenting with. I was running double mastery rings here, and I was just taking the Obsidian Aspirant Signet, just the 437 version. And here we have like 33% mastery. That's pretty good. I haven't decided if I like that better or if I'm just going to play double Obsidian Gladiator rings. Like one is the Mastery, one is the Haze. But for now, I'm playing one of each stat. Yeah. So that's about it for the stats in the enchants. As far as gems go, Zen Malachite, that's the best. Or yeah, Zen Malachite, 70 versatility, 33 mastery. You can pick up the main stat plus versatility crafting order gem if you want. I just haven't got it yet because I don't have any extra gem slots. All right, guys. Stay tuned for the next part of the guide, which will be playstyle. I'm going to release the videos in two separate instances here. So part 1 is talents and gearing, and part 2 will be playstyle, aka rotations and macros. All right, I'll see you all next video. If you enjoyed, feel free to drop a thumbs up, like, subscribe, comment, follow me on Twitch, Twitter, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.